everyone, thank you for joining the Long Island National Wildlife Refuge and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in celebrating World Bee Day. Today we're going to make a solitary bee box for our solitary bees. I hope you guys are ready. I'm going to let you know what we need next. Alright, so these are the things that we're going to need to make our solitary bee box. So we're going to need an upcycled container. It could either be wood, but it would have to be hollow. We can use plastic containers such as this that you can get when you order some wonton soup. You can use a coffee cup or coffee can. You can use a plastic milk jug. Pretty much anything you can upcycle. You don't want to use cardboard because it will get wet in the rain and then it'll kind of disintegrate. We want something that water is going to kind of fall off of and it's going to protect the eggs. We can use a ruler. The ruler is going to help us measure out how tall we want our tubes to be. Paper, of course. Yarn so that we can hang the bee box up. Scissors to cut our tubes. Tape to tape our tubes together, and we're going to tape the bottoms of our tubes because only one side should be open. And a marker. And our marker is going to be used just to mark how tall we want our tubes to be in our containers. So go grab all that stuff, and I hope you guys are ready. I do want to mention a few things that we should not use. Now I do have paper straws that we can use, but we do not want to use plastic straws. Plastic straws are not reusable, they're not great for our environment, and they're hard to clean. So at least the paper straws are okay to throw out once they are used for one season. Okay? We don't want to use a piece of wood that just has bored holes into it. You can do that if you put paper placements in it, if you put paper straws in those holes, because then we can change it out. If you just have a piece of wood with bored holes in it and you don't put anything inside those holes, then it's unable to clean those out and it can cause infections in those tubes for the bees if the bees go back in there, and you cannot clean them out. So it's a place where bacteria grows, and we don't want that for those bees. We also don't want to use bamboo. Bamboo is very hard to cut, even though it sounds like something really usable that we can, clean out. It's hollow, we don't have to do anything too much, and it looks great. Bamboo is very hard to cut, and it's very hard to maintain. Also, if you guys want to paint your houses, so if you do use wood and you want to paint those houses to a nice color, make sure that you wait at least a month before you put them out. Any chemicals that are on the paint, that are in the paint, that are on the box is going to hurt a bee, so we don't want to put it out right away. We want to let it dry and let all those chemicals leave the air before we put those bee boxes out. Alright, so once we have our container picked out, remember to try to upcycle retainers instead of going out to buy anything. You can also use wood. I don't recommend using cardboard boxes because in the rain they'll just disintegrate. At least with these it's plastic, so water will run off of them. So we want to start making our tubes. We're going to need a lot of tubes to fit in here. This whole thing needs to be filled with tubes. So we could just use printer paper. I don't recommend using construction paper. I did try to do that and it's a little too thick to get them really tight. You want the holes to be pretty narrow. So I use computer paper. And you can either use a pencil to roll the paper, or I'm actually going to use a paper straw. The paper straw I'm also going to use in my container, but I'm also going to use this just to roll some extra tubes. This is nice and small and it's perfectly round, so it's a little bit easier to get them smooth and tight. once you have your length, now with mine, I'm using the coffee can. So our tubes are gonna be a little too tall, so we're gonna have to cut them down. So I'm just going to mark where I want it to be. Probably gonna have it right on this lip of the can. Cut it. And then I can use this one to cut all the other ones instead of marking all of them. In your upcycled container, make sure you drill a hole, either 1 or 2. I did 2 holes to just make sure when I do put it on this tree, it's nice and sturdy. You do not want them moving in the wind. Bees do not like movement. So I want to make sure it's super anchored, so I put 2 holes and I'm going to put string in there when we're done. Alright, so to save time, I cut all of these tubes, some straws in here, but most of them I did cut, and they're all perfect size and they're ready. Now before we do put them in, we have to make sure we tape one side. It cannot be hollow all the way through. Only one side is able to be open because they're gonna put their eggs in here and we don't want them to fall out. So all you need is some Scotch tape just to close off one side. And then that side that's closed up is gonna go on the bottom of our container. And the open side is gonna be in the opening so that they can go into it. Okay? So I already did that with all the other ones, so they're all set and ready. So I'm going to put my string through before I start putting all my tubes in. So I just used some thick yarn, nothing too soft that's going to get really wet and it's going to drop. This one's a little thicker, so I'm going to just thread through. So I can hang it. And like I said, I did 2 holes, so I'm gonna put both of them in now so that I don't have to try to struggle to get them in after I put all my tubes in. And for now, I'm just gonna tie it so they don't come out. So now I'm going to start putting all of my tubes into my container. Now like I said, we're going to put them in with the side that is closed down. Make sure all of them are the right way before I put them in. Perfect. Now we might want to put a few more extra ones in here to make it tight. We don't want them moving around at all, so I do need to add a few more. But do you see how it's different sizes? All right, so solitary bees, they like small holes to go into. So you can have a variety of different size holes as long as they're not too big. So I do have some that are a little bit bigger. The straws are a little bit smaller, but it's okay to have a little bit bigger ones because it gives them variety, and also different species like different size holes to go into. So we might even get different kinds of solitary bees, different species, instead of all one species. Stay tuned for part 2, installation.